Hi all, in this lab, let us understand how to do message transformation on the REST API. Okay, so in the previous lab, we have not done any transformation. Whatever the input request comes from the client, the same JSON file is sent as it is to the backend, which is Lambda. But in this case, we are going to make some changes. Okay, now let's get started. So we create one REST API, which is calculate price, which is a regional endpoint. And within that, we have created one resource, which is price per meter. And the backend is Lambda, which is a calculate cost per unit. Now, when the client sends the request to this API, they will be using this sample JSON file. And in this, you see down payment is one of the field, but inside the API gateway, we have created certain modification, transformation to the request. The down payment amount is added extra. So the down payment amount is assigned to the down payment. So that means extra field is added to the request to the Lambda. Now this is going to change the behavior of the response on the backend. Okay. So the integration request is modified before sent to Lambda, and the Lambda does some calculation. And if you look at the total cost which is calculated, it will be different compared to the previous lab because the down payment amount is getting added to the price. Okay. Now let us understand how this is implemented using Terraform. Let's go to the source code. Okay. So let us understand how to implement the Lab2, which is message transformation lab for the REST API that we have created earlier. Okay. Now, if you go to the source code, so this is the code to create a REST API called calculate price, and the type of the endpoint is regional. Okay. And this is the resource that we are creating called price per meter. Okay. Now, this is the response. This is the gateway method for this particular API. So the type of the HTTP method is post, and we are not doing any authorization. Okay. The integration is where the important configuration is happening. So here we are adding one request template. That means the input request, which is the dollar input dot path, is now transformed using this vector table template mapping VTL. Okay, so the down payment amount is basically added as a new field, which is mapped to the input field, which is down payment. So this extra parameter, the remaining are all same. Okay, now this extra field is going to change the backend response. Okay, that we will see. So let us ignore the other code. In the API gateway integration response also we have to configure. Okay, so that's all. Let's ignore this code. This is for the other labs that will come back later. Now there are few IAM permissions and the plans permissions for the IAM role that we need to create. So let us ignore that for now. We have discussed that in the previous lab. Now let us go and deploy this. So I've already done Terraform init, plan and apply to save time. Now let's go to the console and see how this looks like. Okay. So this is our API and price per meter. So if you look at the method request, it is more or less same. There's no change. Integration request, we made some changes. So this is the mapping template that we have defined. So the down payment amount is extra added, and it is basically assigned to this down payment field. Okay. Now integration type is Lambda, and when there are no templates defined, so input pass through this recommended option. And in the integration response, we did one more mapping. Okay. So the way we did this is if you go to edit, okay, and if you go to the mapping template, I've just selected method request pass through. Okay. So with that, this is the configuration. Now, yeah, this is how it looks like. For the method response, there's not much change. Okay. Now let's go to the test screen and see how this function is working. Okay, let us give some commands, I mean input data. So let me go back to my test events. So this is my sample test data. Okay. So if I enter that here and click on the test button, now you see that the total cost is 40020. This was different earlier. Earlier the total cost was 40000 4 lakh basically. That is 400K. But now because of the new transformation that we have done, so the Lambda is adding one more field to the total cost. Okay. So we can see that here. So this is a request context, and so this is the request body before transformation, and this is after transformation. Okay. So we are passing this new field, and so the response back from Lambda is this, the same thing, we are sending it back. So we're not making any changes to the response from Lambda. Instead, we made some changes to the request to the Lambda using the transformation. Okay. So here the final output contains HTTP response code 200, and basically the total cost is getting added up. The price is the input price, and this is getting added up, extra 20. Okay. So this is how we can conclude that the message transformation is happening inside the API gateway. Okay.